You are listening to the Digital Parent Podcast with your host, Ced Lewis.
Hey parents, welcome to another episode of the Digital Parent Podcast. Did you know that 52% of parents have been told by their children to put their device away during dinner meals? Did you also know that 42% of parents can't remember the last time their family had a device-free meal? Well, that's the latest research published by Comcast, and boy, have they stepped up to the plate to solve this problem. On this episode of the Digital Parent Podcast, Matt Strauss of Xfinity joins to discuss their new product, xFI. Matt is the Vice President of Xfinity Services and the key member behind this new app called xFI. Basically, what the app allows you to do as an Xfinity customer, you can pause and stop the internet. You can control it at night. You can control it during dinner. And Matt really talks about how he utilizes this app with his family, the boys that he's raising, the pushback that he got from them, and how he resolved those issues. And I think this is going to be a very valuable show for you. So let's jump right into the discussion with Matt. Hey, Matt, I want to really, jump into this new great product that you guys have over at Xfinity. The new product called Xfinity xFI. It's kind of like you take the Wi-Fi and put an X in place of the W, which is kind of cute. How does it work? And is it very user-friendly for parents? Like, is this going to be something easy for parents to utilize to really take control of the internet?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Ced. And, I'm actually a parent of 4 kids. I have 4 boys. So this is a product that's actually very personal to me and my family because, I think it represents kind of a symptom of something that's maybe broader that a lot of families and parents see with their children. And what's interesting is, with the proliferation of the internet, more and more people have high-speed data. We're, for example, continuing to roll out faster and faster speeds, including 1 gigabit speeds. More and more devices are connecting through Wi-Fi. And as a parent, you obviously have the ability to observe your children in the physical world. Who are they talking to? What are they doing? But in the digital world, it's harder. And it's also harder in many respects because while the internet is making us more socially connected, I think in some ways it's making us more isolated. And I see this firsthand with my kids where I'll come home sometimes and, all 4 of them will be sitting next to each other and they're not even talking to each other. They're kind of mesmerized within their devices. And this becomes an even more acute issue at dinner time, where dinner time for many of us is really an opportunity to connect with your families, and more and more we're finding that over 52% of parents have had to tell their kids to put devices away during mealtime. Or we did a survey, 42% of parents said they can't even remember the last time they had a device-free meal, and as a parent you can almost feel somewhat defenseless because the only real option you have is to physically take the device away, which I'm guilty of doing many times.
Right.
Or even in extreme cases, like I've had to unplug the router in my house because I out of frustration. So this is where xFI comes in, and I think it's a really elegant solution, and it also gives parents the control that I think that they've maybe have been missing as part of their internet service. And the way it works is you download the xFI app if you're a Comcast Xfinity customer. It's free, and it does a few things. One, what it does is it immediately highlights for you all of the different devices that are connected to your internet, and you can see it physically. You can actually see all of the devices listed.
So, Matt, let me jump in and just ask you a quick question. So when you download the app, so I'm assuming you can see laptops, you can see your desktop, you can see smartphones, tablets. What about gaming systems? Like if the gaming system, you can hook up to Wi-Fi, will you see the game console as well?
You will. Any device that's connected to your internet will appear. And so to your point, if it's a gaming system, It will even show if you have internet-connected speakers or other kinds of interconnected IoT-type devices. So it's fairly comprehensive. If it's a device in the home that's using your Wi-Fi, it will render on this app. And then as a parent, it's pretty magical because you can do a few things. One is you can group these devices by profile. You can create a profile. So for my son, Aaron, I can see his iPhone, I can see his laptop, and I can group them all under Aaron. And I could do the same thing for my son, Jason, and I can even do it for my wife, although she doesn't like that I've done this. And then what I can, as a parent, do is I could set up rules. And this is really easy, and it has to be easy because most people just don't have the time to go through setting a lot of this stuff up.
Right.
And once you've kind of if you've decided to group these devices by profile, then I can set rules for my 8-year-old's devices. I can pause them. I can set a rule that says turn off my son's computer at 9 o'clock at night. Don't let him access the Wi-Fi. But I can set different rules for my 15-year-old. And it's very liberating as a parent because it now gives you that control to determine how you want to allow your children to use the internet, and you can decide what's best for you. But it also, if you don't want to go through that process of creating profiles, you don't have to. You can at any time just pick a device and pause it, or you have kind of the so-called nuclear option where you can just
I was
push
going to
one
ask you, do you
button.
have like a kill switch?
And I think that when I mentioned earlier, some of the research that we recently did just around how I think many parents are feeling frustrated, especially around dinner time, and candidly, it's not just kids. I think we're all sometimes guilty ourselves as parents of also looking at devices, especially during mealtime. And this also came out in this survey that we did, where 75% of parents surveyed said they've had to take away devices from their children, either because they're not listening or they're misbehaving. But 52% of parents said that they had to have their device taken away as well, because they too sometimes have a hard time disconnecting. So this option to then be able to just push a button, pause devices, pause access to those devices, and it's really no harder than that said. It's literally just almost a kill switch, and it could as easily be toggled back on. But it's been very, for me personally, and I know for many of our customers, it's just been a great way, especially around dinner or meals, which is a very special time, at least for me and in my family. It's just kind of forced us to disconnect. And it doesn't require a fight or a struggle to then take devices away, or to constantly have to tell my children to stop checking their devices. Once I push this one button, it almost snaps everybody back to the present.
So let me ask you a quick question. When you implemented this in your house, right? What was the reaction from the kids, or was it a situation when the boys were like, "Well, good, because not only am I going to be device free, but my parents are going to be device free as well"? Did they see kind of like some neutrality in using this app, or was there some pushback from the kids at first when you first introduced this to the household?
Oh no, my kids hate this. They have not really embraced kind of this new tool that I have in my parenting toolkit. In some ways, it's a bit of like a digital detox.
Right.
But I think I think for me and my family, it's been very helpful. And while my kids initially, would moan and groan and were not happy, after a little bit of time, they get over it. And then what we've found is we start talking to each other again. And I think that other families hopefully will see the same. And then just like anything, you start to get into a routine. And for my kids, the first time they hated it, the second time they They hated it. And by the third or fourth time, it just became that's how we're going to now interact with one another. And now my kids just expect it. And it's been the same thing, candidly, with how I've set up rules with xFI and the xFI app, with how I want how I've decided I want to allow my children to access internet at different times in the day. And, having certain devices disconnected from the internet at certain times. So, it makes bedtime easier. It kind of, it reinforces family time with my with my kids and my wife, but also gives me the flexibility to also acknowledge, my 15-year-old, has different set of rules than an 8-year-old. And I have that control, and I have that ability with my family now with the xFI app. So it's just, I think, like anything, once you introduce something like this, it's likely going to be met with some set of resistance.
Of course.
But over time, it's just become very routine, and it's actually been a fantastic way to reconnect with my kids.
So let me ask you another question about like kids that come over to your house, because I don't think that maybe parents see this as a great use case, but like maybe if your sons are having a sleepover or some type of slumber party, is this a good way to control what comes into the house? Because maybe there's another kid that comes through, and maybe that kid likes to watch pornography or watch inappropriate sites. Can you use the xFI app to not only control your kid's device, but control all the devices in the household to kind of prevent parents from having that liability from other kids coming to their house with devices?
Well, it's a great point. And one of the other features of this xFI app is every time a device gets connected to the Wi-Fi, I get a notification.
Right.
So I know about it. Even when I'm here at work, if somebody comes into my house, if my kids have a friend come over, I get a notification that this new device, and it names the device, has connected to the Wi-Fi. And you can set up rules there as well around how you want those devices to access it. If you want to make it easy for those devices to access your Wi-Fi and not necessarily require a username or password, you can set it up that way. If you want to pause those devices, just like you pause, devices of your family, you have that control too. And, one of the features that we plan to implement over time, because I think that as amazing as xFI has been, I feel in many ways we're just scratching the surface in what this app could provide to parents, is also introduce, what websites get accessed on those devices. And this has been, I think, another pain point for some parents. It has been for me as well, around, how I don't know all the time what my kids are accessing. So it's not just the connectivity, that's a piece of it, but when they are connected, how do I also have some control over what they're searching for, or what they might innocently, see come up, as part of them accessing the internet. And that's another dimension of what we plan to implement as well with xFI, to give parents that level of control as well.
So that's coming down the road where they'll be able to like blacklist or whitelist different website pages? Okay. Yes,
exactly. But to answer your initial question around just other devices brought into the home, friends or anybody, that will show up as well. And all of the tools that I mentioned earlier, that you could set rules around those devices too. So it's again been a really great way for me and my wife, when my kids have slumber parties or kids over, to have better visibility into those devices.
Well, another thing I want to ask about xFI, and this is just to get onto the product side, because we've seen a lot of tech companies with Kickstarters where they've came out with these, like, what I call them, like internet safety based routers, where, they're putting software on routers, to give parents more control over the internet. But we also seen a lot of those companies fizzle and go out of business because they just can't make the technology part of it work. So, what are some of the insurance that parents have with xFI that, they won't run into some of those same problems that those other companies have ran into with this sort of technology?
Well, I think, when a customer takes and subscribes to our internet service, typically what we've been providing as part of that service has been speed, and Wi-Fi connectivity. Those have been the two biggest values of what I think our customers have come to expect when they sign up for Xfinity Internet. What we're talking about here with xFi, I think, is a third pillar that we believe should be a value add. That that if you subscribe to our internet service, this is included. So when a customer takes our router, our Wi-Fi router, and they use that router to access the internet and access Wi-Fi in the home, they will now just get xFi, and I think it's a huge value. So while you're right, there are third-party devices you can purchase, whether it's on Kickstarter or Amazon. Some of these are pretty costly, and they provide similar functionality to what we're talking about. I think the biggest benefit is we don't charge incremental for this. It's just included, and you get this as part of what you subscribe to with Xfinity.
And I think that's a great point, because I think a lot of those routers, you may have to pay a couple $100, and then you may have to pay another $10 to $15 a month in monitoring fees as well.
Right. So I think that's that's one of the values. And we're actually in the process, as I mentioned earlier, we're rolling out a new gateway, which is it's one of the fastest Wi-Fi gateways in the market, if not the fastest. It's one we built internally, and it's going to really provide amazing Wi-Fi coverage in the home. But it also includes xFi, as do our other gateways. But this new one that we're rolling out is we're really proud of it. But so for that customer that wants super fast 1 gigabit speeds, they'll be able to get the fastest speeds, the best Wi-Fi coverage, and now xFi. So this is just an example of us continuing to try to find ways to innovate, to provide our customers more value. And this was something that we, through research and also just through personal experience, identified as kind of a gap,
right.
Especially as a parent, in how do we give that control, that internet control, back to parents so they can decide how they want to best utilize it for their families.
You guys are really at the forefront of this. I mean, you don't see other large cable companies trying to tackle this issue, and I think you really explained, Matt, that you guys really want to be the forefront of it because you're parents yourself and you're dealing with these same issues.
Well, I think that's an important piece that, behind every product, a lot of it is certainly designed around, certain innovation touch points or pain points. Some of these come through research and customer feedback, but a lot of the things that we build, quite candidly, are things that we want as well as customers, right, as people, as humans. And I think that's what's so exciting about it is that when we launched xFi, in one day we made this available to over 10 million of our customers overnight. Didn't require you getting new equipment. Didn't require you, spending any incremental money. It's included. And to have my friends and my wife's friends have the ability to have access to this, it's very gratifying, and to know that we are providing these tools to make it easier for us to both enjoy technology but equally control it. And I do believe that at least in my personal experience, that giving access to the internet and to devices to my kids has been a wonderful experience, but in some ways it's been a little scary. So in having the ability to better monitor it and control it and make sure that my kids are safe and that that we're continuing to stay connected as humans, I think it's important. And it's important to allow parents at least to make those choices, but also have the tools to make those choices, I think is an important ingredient to all of us.
So one last question, Matt. Where can, I guess, your subscribers now go and find the app? Is it just simple going to like Google Play or going to the iTunes Market to download the app?
It is that simple. To your point, if you go to the iTunes Store or Android Google Store, you can download the xFi app, xFI. It's free. If you're a Comcast Xfinity customer and you take internet, there's no charge for this. It's really easy to use the app. Also, as you bring new devices into your home, as we continue to improve and build upon this app, it's also just meant to make it easier for you to activate devices. So if you buy wireless speakers, or if you buy a device that connects to your television and uses the internet, for some people who are technically savvy, it's very easy. Others, they don't want to really think about it. They just want it to work. And this app, in many ways, is designed to make it easier for you to onboard devices into your home, to connect to the internet, and remove some of the complexity that may be required in how you set it up. And I think over time, you're just going to see it get easier and easier.
And Matt, is there a website they can go to see, how to utilize the app that demonstrates the app?
If they go to xfinity.com/xFI, there's a learn page that, a customer can find, or obviously you could just type this into Google and it will take you right to the web page. But, to be honest with you, my hope is that anyone who wants to try this and download the app, or you can also control this on the web. So there is a website as well. If you want to use a laptop or desktop, you have the same functionality. But I think that many people will find it's fairly intuitive, and that's my hope. And again, we'll continue to improve it and add more features and functionality. But it was really designed to be fairly easy, so anybody could use it and have that instant gratification as a parent to take back control over the internet.
Well, hey, man, I'm really excited about this product. It's long coming. Like I said, it's been many people who have tried this and failed. And for Comcast to get behind this, I think this is a win for parents. And I can't wait to try it out myself.
Well, let me know what you think. And I really appreciate you letting me explain to you how this works. And we welcome feedback because this is one where we've got real ambition around it and real passion, and I think that you're going to just continue to see us innovate around this and make this a real core competency of what you should get and will get as being a Comcast Xfinity internet customer.
And we'll make sure we put all the links to the site on our show notes as well. Thanks for being on the show, Matt.
Okay, you bet. Take care.
Hey, parents, I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Matt. And I know that he really got you fired up to go out and get their free app, xFI. And I think it's a great download because there's a lot of other services out there that are charging parents $15 to $20 a month to do the same thing. And you can get this totally free with xFI. Make sure you go to xfinity.com to get more information. And make sure you also visit the show notes for this episode, because in the show notes, I'm going to give you the opportunity to download a beautiful infographic about the app, and you will also see a couple of videos about the app as well. And make sure you go to iTunes and rate the Digital Parent Podcast. And I really hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time.